there was a great example of the yips. During practice, I was very confident. It looked like I had been playing that sport for many, many years. And then during the game, it looked like I had never played that sport. I didn't know what I was doing.
So today we are going to be discussing the yips. We will be discussing psychological aspects of the yips, technological and movement-based approaches to treat the yips, the vicious cycle of the yips, psychological and neurological approaches to treating the yips, and what the yips are. According to the Cambridge Dictionary, it states, in sports, especially golf, a condition in which a player is suddenly not able to hit, throw, or kick the ball well, usually because of nervousness. Cambridge editors. On to you, Peter.
Thanks, Lucas. So the yips are entirely a psychological issue relating to dopamine in the brain. So dopamine typically comes from happiness. And when you have things like anxiety or pressure, dopamine production completely stops. These things can lead to a decrease in places like the substantia nigra, the ventral tenaga, which is basically this kind of whole area in the hypothalamus, which is this little tiny dot. I don't know if you're able to see that.
Here, Lucas is going to speak about the technical and movement-based approaches to treat the yips.
Alright, so first off, you can modify your techniques. So you can change your physical approach, such as altering your grip, head position, or eye focus. So basically, in sports, if you're having trouble and lacking in confidence with doing a certain task, changing your physical movement of this task can help you improve your confidence and get better. So you can also analyze this movement. So you can use technology like motion capture to analyze subtle involuntary movements to identify the source of the problem. So if you're having some problems twitching or flinching, like uncontrollably for no reason at all, identifying this problem and it can help further fix it. So you can also alter your practice environment. So you can structure practice to include the same psychological and physical stress found in a competition to better prepare for performance. So basically what kickers do for football is in practice they try to put as much pressure as they can on themselves so that when they get to the game is actually less stressful and it's way easier.
Other things you can do are you can use drills. Create a specific set of drills or a protocol to rebuild confidence and address a specific yip-related issue. You can also use target-based practice. Focus on a specific target rather than just hitting to general areas to improve accuracy and intentionality. Placement over power. Focus on the precision of movement rather than trying to use brute force. So like instead of trying to swing as hard as you can or kick the ball as hard as you can, you try to kick it at a certain area or hit the ball like on a certain part of the ball. Next, Peter is going to discuss the vicious cycles of the yips.
Thanks, Eli. So according to Mayo Clinic, as anxiety worsens, the physical symptoms of dystonia and physical failure increases psychological stress. So basically what this means, on this graphic can show you that if you have like a bad chip or putt, you may think, what's wrong with me? What am I doing? What can I change to be better? And you're kind of in a positive mood. And then if you have another bad chip or putt, you'll be like, what am I doing? I'm losing control. This is so embarrassing. Why am I doing this bad? And then you'll have over control, which means like you're really tense, you're kind of worried, and basically you won't be able to play.
Some other things you can do are have memory encoding. The brain stores these negative, high-stress experiences as bookmarks. You also will have reactivation. These bookmarks are triggered in similar future situations, further hindering performance. For example, if you strike out to lose a championship or give up a home run or make an error, your brain will remember this, and next time you're in a similar situation, you'll have this high stress and high pressure to do the same thing. Now Lucas is going to discuss the psychological and neurological approaches to treating the yips.
So some of the things that you can do is you can use mental skills or training. So you can use techniques like relaxation, visualization, and positive thinking to manage this anxiety. So if you're beating yourself up about a tiny error that really doesn't affect the game in the whole scheme of things, you can relax and try to visualize you doing the thing next time. And you can also use positive thinking to help improve this. So another thing that you can do is focus on being in the present. So bring your attention back to the immediate task to prevent overthinking and over complicating your movements. So basically, if you're just trying to do everything perfect, just like you always know, chances are you're going to have a high chance of messing up. However, if you're just focusing on being in the present and you're focusing on doing these movements calmly and doing these movements correct and doing these movements in the moment, it'll help you. So you can also address the underlying anxiety. So you can recognize that stress or anxiety in other places of your life can contribute to the yips. And you can address these issues as well. So if you're having a super hard time in school or at your work, it can affect the way that you actually play. So basically, if you keep getting bad grades and you're just like low self-esteem, it can affect how you play.
You could also consider neurofeedback or brain spotting. Some advanced... I swallowed my tongue.
Okay, wait, keep going. We can cut right there.
You can also consider neurofeedback or brain spotting. Some advanced techniques are focused on processing the underlying emotional and reflective causes of the yips, which can be helpful where other methods have failed.
Now Eli is going to discuss engineering ways to solve the yips.
You can have a different equipment design. Engineers can explore designing adaptive sports equipment that might mitigate the effects of the yips, similar to how changing to a thicker pen can help with rider's cramp. For example, exploring different weights, grips, like a claw grip in golf or material for putters, baseball gloves, or other gear to alter the sensory input and potentially bypass the neurological trigger. Also consider neurofeedback or brain spotting. Some advanced techniques are focused on processing the underlying emotional and reflective causes of the yips, which can be helpful where other methods have failed.
Now Eli is going to discuss engineering ways to solve the yips.
You can have a different equipment design. Engineers can explore designing adaptive sports equipment that might mitigate the effects of the yips, similar to how changing to a thicker pen can help with rider's cramp. For example, exploring different weights, grips, like a claw grip in golf or material for putters, baseball gloves, or other gear to alter the sensory input and potentially bypass the neurological trigger. You can also change your training environment. Engineering principles can be applied to design practice environments that simulate the psychological and physical stress of real game scenarios, helping athletes build resilience and prepare for high-pressure situations. Just like Lucas said, kickers put a lot of pressure and stress on themselves in practice, so the stress and pressure in a game feels like nothing.
Now Peter is going to talk about the symptoms of the yips.
So, thanks Lucas. So the primary symptoms of the yips are muscle movements and performance-related psychological distress that hinder the athlete's ability to perform a mastered skill. So the most common physical symptoms of the yips are things like twitching, tremors, feeling frozen or like locked in place, loss of motor control, pain or discomfort, and even like jerking. And here you can see if you look at this great graph from Dyssophia International, it shows you that things like changing your grip on the club can help with rider's cramp, and that can help you to feel less anxiety. And things like the yips can also affect like your neck and shoulders, and especially like your posture, so you look very bad.
Percentage of athletes that have had it in golf. Such loss of control has a large impact on golf performance and has consequences for the athlete's career, as the putt represents the most important stroke in high-level golf. The yips is a common phenomenon in golf, affecting 28 to 48% of golfers, says McDaniel Smith.
So the yips also have a long-term effect in sports. So the yips, it can have people like almost at risk of losing their jobs. So PGA Tour states, in danger of losing his PGA Tour card, the 37-year-old Merritt now brings that battle of the week's Barracuda Championship at Reno Tahoe, where he's at a 2-time runner-up. In danger of losing his job in total, if that's what he did for a living, then he soon loses this. That's like his only way of income and probably the only thing that he knows how to do because he was pretty good at it. He's going to either have to work back up to that or figure out another way to get this income.
So, 5 different teams. So, according to the NBA, it states 5 different teams subsequently tried and failed to fix Brad's actual issues. He was a pitcher and he had a high symptoms of the yips. He was not very great. And the point where he tried to convert himself into a submarine pitcher. Because Daniel Bard was doing so bad, he basically did the equivalent of starting over his whole career in baseball by changing his arm angle, and instead of losing his career, he managed to bounce back, but he was never good as he once was, losing a lot of money.
Some other things that affect the yips are overfocusing. This is because you are overfocusing, then you will overthink what you are doing in a game and make a wrong decision or even make a bad throw, kick, or putt. Overfocusing causes an athlete to over-control their movements instead of relying on muscle memory, and they end up losing both confidence and automaticity.
So another thing that affects the yips is experience. This is because the yips are most commonly found in people who have played sport for a long time. This is because the longer time a person has played a sport, and for more, that means the more that they have failed, which means that they're more likely to remember these events that bring stress among them. So basically, if you fail in big positions, it'll like hunt you down later in life. So this can lead to great overthinking in decisions, specifically in a game, specifically in like the same type of situation that you were once in, that you failed.
The yips can have a devastating impact on athletes, often marking a significant personal and professional crisis. When a player who has spent a lifetime mastering that craft suddenly loses the ability to perform a basic skill. The result, profound frustration, confusion, and a crushing blow to self-confidence. So for example, if I was a professional person, I worked my entire life to get up to this point, and when I got there, all the anxiety and stress cuts off my dopamine, and I basically look like, how did I look terrible? And it looks like I've never played this sport. And I'll be like, and that will severely lower your self-confidence, and you'll be so confused, like, I was so good in the future, in the past, why am I doing terrible now?
This leads to intense public scrutiny and media attention, which exacerbates performance anxiety and social embarrassment, sometimes forcing athletes to prematurely retire or drastically change their position/sport. Beyond the intermediate performance issues, the psychological toll often includes heightened stress, anxiety, and even depression, as athletes grapple with the inexplicable failure of their own body and mind under pressure.
So the career trajectories for athletes experiencing the yips vary widely, ranging from complete career changes and forced early retirement to successful comebacks and extreme mental perseverance. So even though people have failed over and over again, they're still going to try to come back, or they're just going to have to retire early.
While some athletes like Rick Ankiel of the St. Louis Cardinals managed to reinnovate themselves by switching positions from pitcher to outfielder, others such as Chuck Knobloch found their careers prematurely shortened after condition became unmanageable under pressure, says the MLB. Golfers like Bernhard Langer have shown incredible resilience, battling the yips for decades by constantly adapting their equipment, putting styles to remain competitive at the highest level, demonstrating that the yips, while a serious impediment, do not always mark the definitive end of an athlete's professional journey.
Thank you so much for listening to our speech.
Thank you.
Thank you.